whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing.
Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor-agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from the fiction. Now let's get this started with your hosts, Mario Diabenedetto, Rob Katz, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Welcome to episode 40.
Wow, we hit 40. Guess
Our
who's 40 today?
Our midlife crisis of podcasts.
Holy smokes. I'm going to go buy a Porsche.
Do we have 40 listeners yet? I don't know.
Maybe if we went live. We do have a fourth person joining us.
Oh, I'm going to introduce a longtime friend of mine who's been in the business, the mortgage business, which I think all of us have been in for a long time, along with a bunch of other industries that he's been proficient in getting. What was the way you said that, Steve? You have a lot of 90% ideas that get you. I can't say it as good as you.
I have a lot of projects 90% complete.
Yeah, well, here's to the 10%. Let's get those across the finish line. And
You know what? They told me in school 90 was an A, so I stopped there.
Right. Sounds right to me.
Yeah.
That's the way AI thinks too.
So Steve's on board here today to give a business perspective on the comments and the topics that we have, just to kind of get us back to reality of why this is important to anyone who's in the mortgage space, any space, and kind of give his perspective from a well-rounded business acumen. So thanks for joining us, Steve.
Glad to be here.
So before I launch into our topic, I'm going to give you a fun fact about the number 40. It's the only number whose letters are in alphabetical order. How about that for a tidbit?
You GPT'd that. You didn't. That is not. You. There's no way you came up with that yourself.
Oh, I'm just full of these things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Completely AI. What are you talking about? Of course.
That is almost as cool as you can spell the word typewriter by only using the top keys of the keyboard.
All right. See, we're full of just interesting facts here.
Wow.
Steve,
Okay.
you got one? On the spot.
I do not.
So today's theme is the hustle that is going on by the major vendors that are out there to basically embed themselves in your world. And we're gonna focus on Microsoft and Google today, because Microsoft had an announcement about stuff they were doing with Copilot. Google had an announcement about stuff they were doing with Gemini, with the big themes being they're trying really hard to get you as much access to other stuff through their AI as they possibly can to make it as useful as possible in your everyday life.
I have a slightly different take. I'm not disagreeing with you, but my perspective is they're trying to make their AI tools practical for day-to-day work.
Yeah.
That's my take on it, right? So let's give an example. We all know you can go to ChatGPT and go, hey, help me write an email to Smitty about something, and it'll kick out a first draft and everything else like that. What this is you start Microsoft Word or you start Google Doc, and you go to the AI chat and go, I need a partnership agreement with this guy Steve Ahearn. I've never done business with him before, but he's going to help me do something. What's he going to help you do? He's going to help me build a fence. And there's draft one, right? It's not a doomed tool. I've been using Microsoft Word forever or Google Docs forever, but it takes the work away from the sitting at the keyboard and typing and getting the ideas out there. So it's bringing AI into practical implementations and utilization in tools I'm already comfortable with. That's how I take out it. So, Mario, you were saying it's bringing the whole world to it. It is doing both.
Well, here's the way I read it. So there was an announcement from Google, and they talked about Gemini. I felt like Gemini announcement was mostly about Google tooling. So if you've got stuff in Google, then you're going to have access to it through your AI, and that's cool. And you can build a Google Sheets, which is their version of PowerPoint. I felt like Microsoft's was broader, right? Microsoft talked about Copilot, and they talked about connectors, right? So they talked about having it not only access any data that Microsoft might be on Microsoft in your environment, but they said you can have it easily connect. And they had MCP server connectivity that you could build. Like, they had the ability to actually extend way beyond their own stuff. To me, that's a lot more interesting, right? Because, like, yeah, I have a lot of stuff in Google, but not everything I have is always in Google. Like, do I have to put it in Google now just because if I don't, then AI doesn't know it exists? Like,
Well, I gotta say, thank the Lord they're doing this. I've been way too much copy and paste when you go into GPT and you got to copy and paste, and then the formatting's all screwed up when you get into Word. And if they could just have the same bot within Word that's doing it for you, that's more integrated, tighter, and easier to use, I'm all for it. And by the way, I know Mario's a Microsoft guy because he called Google Sheets the PowerPoint one when we know it's Google Slides. But that's okay. I'm giving you grace today,
You're right.
Mario.
you
Giving
know,
you grace.
under pressure. I'm melting under pressure.
Yeah, but when we talk about this stuff, it's like who cares? Like, who cares about this stuff? And what's like, well, wait a second, I care because I've been using that little bit of a tool, letting AI develop something for me. Hey, do you want to draft an email for your team? Do you want to do this? Well, then I'm cutting and pasting, and I have to actually. It's not very. I had been cutting and pasting, and now this tool is expanding what's inside the actual tool in Microsoft, so I don't have to go switching around where I really want them to go to, and I think they're on the cusp, and they're calling it something different, is getting into Power Automate, where they can AIs within Power Automate to build out these automations automatically into other applications, and that's where I think the big lift's going to be, because I take an application like, let's call it Encompass, right? Or Wilco, or any of the LOSs. Well, I don't have an AI attached to it yet. I don't know what Wilco could be building, but I know Encompass doesn't have it. And so when I run AI, I don't want to have to cut and paste. I don't care if it gives me the steps on how to get it done in Encompass. I want it to do it in Encompass. I want it to actually go to a form builder and build me a form and put the form load code and do all that stuff for me. That's what I want it to do. I don't want it to show me how to do it. I want it to do it. And I think that's one of the steps. We're on that first step.
It can do it on Encompass Web. It can't do it on the 30-year-old fat Windows client. So no technology is going to work well on that.
Yeah. So what you're telling all these companies is get on the web. It's not just a flashy little thing. And if you get on the web, why not use Wilco? You know, that's a.
So Steve, you can tell we're geeking out. Like we are the biggest set of nerds this side of whatever, probably in all of mortgage. Like, does any of this matter? Like if you're going to use, I think you said you're using Claude and you're using OpenAI, is getting stuff into AI your problem? Like, is that what's holding you back from getting the most out of AI, or are we just making stuff up?
No, I think Kyle's example is a real life example for me, in that I can do all the work in ChatGPT, get the document exactly how I want it, and then tell it to put it in a format, and then it never works. And then you download it into Word, and it looks not very good, and then you spend more time actually trying to format it, and it's exceedingly frustrating. Or I had one example where I was trying to get something on one page, and I would say, ChatGPT, I need this on one page, and then it would say, okay, great, and it would send me 3 pages, and then I would say, I need this on one page. That was 3 pages. It says, oh yeah, you're right, that was 3 pages. Let me get it on one, but it was 3 more pages. Well, I don't know how to fix that, and so so then you take it to Claude and say, I need 1 page, and then, hopefully that works. I have a question. I don't know if it's off topic or not, but, well, I know it's off topic, and that's kind of how I live, but I don't know if it's anywhere you guys want to talk about, but the example Rob gave of he and I are going to build a fence, so he goes into one of the engines and says, I need an agreement. how long will it be before the agent says, well, how big is your fence? How long is your fence? Here's your lumber material. Here, download this, take this to Home Depot. Here's a coupon, or
Yeah.
just order from Home Depot.
There.
So it's there, Steve. So here's what's interesting is that the universe of knowledge in these large language models is the universe of knowledge. It's everything that's ever been digitized is in there. This all comes down to what's called prompt engineering and asking the right question. And if you get to certain subscription levels of these tools, and I've shared on this podcast, I use the Teams version of GPT, although now I hear that there's other versions that are less expensive that do the same things, but I'm too lazy to switch. I have the ability to create what's called a custom GPT. And in the custom GPT, you can put in whatever instructions you want it to do. So I'll share an example, not to embarrass my son, but my son got laid off recently, software engineer, 7th layoff in 8 years. And so we're trying to figure out what is going on. So I built a custom GPT that said, interview my kid and ask him detailed questions about each of his job experiences that he's had over the 8 years. And let's figure out what the pattern is of why does he keep ending up getting laid off? Is he a shitty engineer, or is it bad luck? Is it bad timing? What is it? So it was tedious. And my kid, when he went through it, I call him my kid, he's 28 years old, but he's still my kid, right? But when he went through it, he told me that, yeah, it was tedious, but it was interesting for him to do it. And it asked all sorts of questions about, what team were you on? How big was the team? What was the deliverable you're working on and everything? So it did this interview. And at the end of it, it said, here is the pattern why you get laid off. You work on internal tools, or you work on this type of project. You've never worked on a project that is directly revenue generating for the companies. You have been a contractor for the position. Contractors are the first to go. And it scored each position and said, you have a definite pattern of why you get laid off. And then the next phase, all within the same custom GPT, is if you're going to apply for a job, drop the Indeed link here, and I will score it in the likelihood that you'll get laid off in the next 6 months if you were to get that job. And it's
Wow.
and it explains why. It's not just 5. It's here's why I think you'll get laid off. Probability of 40% you'll get laid off in 6 months, and here's the reason why. It's been so eye-opening. It's a long story, Steve, to tell you that it's already there. If we took the time to build a custom GPT that said, you're an expert in writing contracts with a contractor who's going to be a fence builder, make sure that in that contract you ask all the questions we need to do to make sure that we're not going to be surprised by scope creep or anything like that, it will do. It'll ask all the questions. It'll take in all the numbers. It'll verify measurements. It may even go, hey, Rob, he's charging $42 per square foot on your fence. That's a pretty high price. It does that today if you know how to prompt engineer it to make it do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Mario, you look like you were going to jump in. Or sorry,
No, I was just going to say, somebody I work with just literally said in the past day that they used AI to redesign a room that they were in, including redoing all the electrical wiring, and it did all the contracting, just like you said, Steve. It actually said, here's what you need to go buy, here's how you're going to hook it up. It did, soup to nuts, the whole process for them.
But that's my question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
When will that hook to commerce so that you design the room and then it sends out bids to 4 electricians that have access somehow? I mean, when does that happen?
Great question. And it's funny because I was just on Angie, right? Which is that website where you can find contractors for, jobs of any sort that you want to do. I have a relatively small job of having to do some baseboard. And I didn't even make the connection. You're right. It would have been great for me to take the video of the spot that I need the base molding put on a floor and some painting touched up around it, and have AI be able to interpret that and say, here's what this job is, so that when somebody went and looked at it, they knew exactly what they were getting into. Right? Instead of just sending a picture and they're like, is that 3 feet or 6 feet or 8 feet? What is that?
And I'm going to go into a different mode here on Rob's description of the contract. So I get it that AI is helping tremendously in contract law and in interpreting and designing contracts and not interpreting the law, but writing out legal forms and based on its history. But at what point, if you do a legal contract to build the fence and you use AI and then the guy builds the fence but it's not right. And you go back to the contract and you go, wait a second, this contract's not right. And the guy's like, sorry, man, that's your fence. You can't hold me accountable because the contract, it looked like a really cool, fancy contract, but it didn't hold me accountable to anything.
Well, and that kind of goes to Steve's question, right? Because Steve's question was the innocuous, when will it be ready to, like, connect the dots in commerce? Mm-hmm. And I think what we've talked about and what is still the case is, if you don't know what you're asking it about, if you have no understanding, the odds of what you just said, Kyle, are very high that you're going to have something go wrong because you don't know how to do that last mile. Just what you said, Steve, right? That last 10%. If you don't have some understanding of the domain, yeah, you might get burned. It's not the, I know I've pretty much everything I do, I have to do some level of adjustment, tweaking, whatever, on what it is. And sometimes it's okay that it's not perfect. Good. This doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be directionally right. But if it has to be perfect, if it's got to be legal agreements, if it's got to be commerce, like it's there's a little bit more at stake there, right?
So I live in Arizona. Kyle lives in Arizona sometimes. There is a bill, HB 2410, give an AI chatbot the same legal status as advice from an actual human professional like a lawyer.
Ooh.
Yeah, wow. I don't think we're ready for that. That would make me very sad if that gets passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not it. That's easier to say than to actually realize the repercussions of all that.
Yeah.
But it would get rid of a lot of billboards in town for Rafi.
What would Rafi do?
Yeah, what will Rafi do? I'm sure you have those too. But I know we twisted that one around a little bit.
But I think where we started, right, to bring it back to Steve's question about commerce, I do think that both Microsoft and Google, with their announcements, are trying to get that toehold towards what you're saying, Steve, right? They're trying to build it so that their model is capable of having all the interactions that would have to precede doing it, so that that allows somebody to actually build what you're saying, right? I will build the thing that connects the dots between, whether it's multiple AIs or AI in between multiple systems that exist or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
And Mario, to your point, I think that we started this conversation on, you're absolutely right. All the connectivity and bringing in external systems, all of the stuff it is a huge value add. I think that the majority of these of Office and Google Suite users are gonna, 80% of them, making up a number, 80% of them are going to use it for the simple stuff, the stuff that Steve was mentioning and help me do this. And, Excel, power pivot tables or power queries. Those are tough, but you can go, hey, can you build a pivot table for me that does this? And it builds it. I don't have to know how to build a pivot table anymore because it'll do it for me, right? So it's going to expand the number of people that are using more advanced features. I think that's going to be today. That's going to be the majority of the adoption. And then geeks like you and me are going to jump on the connectivity, and maybe that's 20%, of the usage. But a year from now, that becomes a 50-50 split. And 2 years from now, it's nobody's even thinking about how, of course it's going to help me run a pivot table because there's no button to make a pivot table other than using AI, right? So I think it's the foot in the door for the connectivity stuff. But I think most folks probably fall more into the Steve camp of, just make this thing easier for me than hey, go touch every application I have in my back office and make it work better.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, Stephen. We'll have to follow up on that. This is flag this one as a follow up. When does it hit commerce? That's a good. Maybe there's some aggressive teams out there looking to adapt and pull commerce directly into the GPT if you allow it. I'm assuming that if you pay for the subscription, you would have to allow different, like the Home Depots, the Lowe's, those guys to get into your GPT and automatically give you the list. And here, just click this button and it's pre-ordered. It'll be waiting for you when you get here. That would be pretty sensational.
I think episode 41 is going to be a very interesting dovetail off that topic.
Okay.
But
we got anything more on this one, Mario?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Just to bring it back to, like, where we all live and breathe, right? In mortgage, right? In doing loans, we're going to be last to that party, right? Because we're so regulated and we have so many things and there's so much compliance overhang on everything we do. That's all going to happen way before it becomes, universal mortgage connector. I want to ask though, and maybe this is the parting question. I don't know if you guys saw Rich Weidel from Princeton Mortgage. Did you happen to see his post this past week? So Rich did a Substack post, and he referenced Sequoia Capital, right? So they're one of the biggest VC firms, and they basically had a grid of industries that are going to partially or wholly disappear because of AI, and mortgage was in the wholly disappear. Wholly, not a little bit, wholly disappear. And he basically wrote on this idea, and he said rough order of magnitude 18 months. 18 months, this industry is going to become dramatically different. And he basically posed the question, and if you don't believe that, what do you know that Sequoia doesn't? Like, are you smarter than these VC guys who spend a lot of time studying where stuff's going? And I'm curious what you guys think. Like, because we sit here and we talk about like barely able to do stuff, right? The everyday person here is struggling to get AI to do more than write a document, create a slideshow, or whatever else. Like, are we really?
But is he talking about the large language models in general? Or is he talking about someone using those models to develop a product that then gets rid of mortgage? Or
the latter for sure.
Yeah.
It's offerings that reduce the friction throughout the process.
That was the word I was going to go for.
Like the Citrini research thing that we talked about previously. Like, it's going to basically condense the whole business model down so that you don't need as many people getting paid, as much money as they get paid, and taking as long as it does in order for somebody to get a mortgage or refinance.
That's right.
But I think what it's going to miss, he broad brushes it with mortgage in general. I think it will change the mortgage industry in 18 months. I think that's fair to assess it that way. But the niche markets, the guys, even the guys at Steve's company, what he does is not mainstream necessarily. It's a little bit off of mainstream. Or what Change Mortgage did, they do a lot off of mainstream, the DSCR loans, the business, all that stuff. Those guys are all not quite in the mainstream that are going to be impacted. And then is there just one big player? Is it just Rocket? I'm going to go get like it becomes the Xerox of the world. Instead of saying I'm going to go get a mortgage, I'm going to go to Rocket and get my Rocket.
Or are you going to go to OpenAI and get your mortgage?
Well, it may be.
Rob,
as
you're
you
hoping
said,
for that, being that with AI.
it may be what you said, right? How does every new origination system start in this industry? I'm going to do a 30-year fixed vanilla mortgage on a W-2, well-qualified, high credit scored person, like the easiest possible thing. So maybe that's the reality of what happens, right?
Well, it's already happening. Rocket's already doing that.
Yeah, no, but you want that. That's a lot cheaper, a lot easier, a lot faster. But yes, the people who know the ins and outs of alternate products, when you need something different for whatever reason, like that may have to stay human, right?
The 10%. That's what it is. I'm leveraging back that comment. It's that 10% finish, because you can finish an 80% loan to value with no MI, with 90% of the information that you need. Well, not for that loan, but 90% knowledge of the industry. You can't finish those other loans that need that 10% of expertise. So anyway, we did circle it back.
I remember back in the day when DU came out, and we all said this is the end of the mortgage business because the consumer is going to be able to get DU self-serve, and then they're just going to shop at lender to lender. Including me, a lot of like-minded people have declared the mortgage business dead for the last 20 years. Yep. And it's the regulation that you hate is what has saved you. So
it's not just the regulation, it's the expense of that regulation. Man, it hurts if you fail.
I don't know if the regulators are going to let a customer go to ChatGPT, get asked questions, and then 30 seconds later sign their mortgage. We all said it was going to be like a car dealer. That was Angelo's deal. It was like your mortgage should only take 15 minutes, and
It's only a few $100,000. Why
Right.
not?
Right. But the reality is when you sell these loans into public markets and real people get hurt, people who vote get hurt, then you get all the regulation to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So I think, I think as Kyle said, I think the technology is there. I think the desire is there, but I don't know that we're as a government. I don't know that they're ready to take the training wheels off and just say, hey, have at it, and just go directly to United Wholesale. You don't need the loan officer. Just go to United Wholesale, or go to Rocket, or go to one of the big banks, or this engine will take all your information. It'll shop all of them. It'll give you best execution, and your closing docs will be in DocuSign in 30 seconds.
Or even directly to the secondary markets.
Yeah.
Why would you even go to a bank? Just find a bond fund with my rating. Oh, I rate this. Okay, cool. I can go into this bond fund. I'm going to grab that price.
Yeah, they're not going to want to service it though.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. See? Always thinking. So have we beaten this horse? Is this horse? We're we not only walk the dog, we've got the dog in the house now.
The dog's
and
tired.
We'll see
Dog-
how many
dog's
people
had
are listening. So on that note, I'm going to say I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
I'm Steve Ahearn.
And I'm still Mario Di Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets riding fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key that rings. A revolution, quiet, but it's vast. Building empires where echoes of futures cast. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean.